This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second College Knowledge Night of the year. This one's titled The Ins and Outs of Collegiate Athletic Recruiting. My name is Mr. Ringette. Miss M is here as well. We are your two college advisors. Anything college you needed, come see us, shoot us an email. We're happy to help. First, I want to introduce our new Director of Athletics, Mr. Alex Cantillo. Alex, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Ringette. Hi, everybody. My name is Coach Alex Cantillo, or I also go by Mr. Alex Cantillo, whatever you prefer to call me. I just want to say it's an honor and a pleasure to be here at Bishop Lynch. I'm entering my first year here at BL as the Director of Athletics, and I'm super excited to go on this journey. I want to thank our college advisors for putting on this presentation, our guest speakers as well, for taking the time to really do this as the ins and outs of college recruiting and the process of making your way to play sports in college is such a strenuous and lengthy process. I'm really appreciative to them that we're getting ahead of the eight ball, and I want you to know that you have a great team here at BL that fully supports everything that you want to do and all the endeavors, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we position you in the right spot. Obviously learning and this education goes a long way, but from my standpoint, I want you to know that with it being my first year at BL, please feel free to connect with me whenever you feel compelled to. My door is always open. I'm always open to meetings. I have a very strong relationship with the guidance office, so if you want additional information and guidance, I can always support you in getting connected with them as well, and we can collaborate as a team. So I just want you to know that we are here for you. And I'm ready to get to work and support you all in all the endeavors that you choose to pursue. So happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me and welcoming me into the BL family, and go Friars.
Great. Thanks, Coach Cantillo. Next, I want to introduce one of my favorite people in the world of college admissions, Miss Christine Bowman. Christine is the Assistant Vice President of Admission at Southwestern University down in Georgetown, Texas. Christine, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Tony, and welcome everyone. As Tony shared, my name is Christine Bowman. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Admission at Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas. We are a Division III institution, a residential liberal arts college. And I think one of the reasons why Tony asked me to engage with you all this evening is the combination of the roles in which I serve. One of my main responsibilities is to serve as the athletic liaison between admission and athletics at Southwestern University. I happen to be married to a Division III coach, and I'm a lover of sports. And so I have worked with a number of students over the years to guide them in determining whether playing sports in college was the right thing for them. And so I think that's where we'll start tonight. One of the first questions that you may be asking, for those of you who have been engaged in student athletics as long as many of you have, you've been playing since you were young, you honed into your targeted sport late in middle school, early in high school, and you've been really focused. And you may be wondering, is this going to come to an end? Why should I continue? Should I continue? And I think one of the reasons that many students choose to continue to play sports in college is that it provides an immediate community. Going to college is a big transition, and there's an opportunity for you to meet lots of new people. But when you have the opportunity to have an immediate community of people with a like interest, like your sport, it really does provide a great transition into the college environment. It also allows you to continue to do something you love. And I use this phrase with students that are also involved in the arts. You've been doing it for so long that if you just stopped, it might feel like you were cutting off your left arm. And yet at the same time, you know that maybe you're not going to go pro and play professional sports for all of your life, but it's something in your heart that you would really love to continue to do because it brings you joy, it brings you balance. And there are some skills that we learn out of being on sports teams, and that's listed on the slide at the end. Leadership, teamwork, problem solving. These are things that our student athletes do on the fly in tense situations. And that is something that is immediately transferable into both the work world and into graduate school and professional school. So while you think, yeah, I'm going to play for 4 more years and then it's not going to go anywhere, what am I really going to get out of it? There's a lot that you will get out of being an athlete in college. I think it also provides a balance between the academic transition between high school and the academic transition in college. You want to have some structure in your life, and you know that you need a change of pace from the academics on occasion. And so that structure in athletics is that balance. Next slide, please. When I was preparing for the conversation today, while I work at a D3 program and a D3 institution, it is really important to have the landscape of all types of athletic programs. And I know there's going to be some additional highlights on this as we continue the conversation. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time with this. And I know Tony is going to send these slides out to the participants this evening and others that were unable to participate. But there are some clear distinctions between Division I, Division II, and Division III. I was surprised when I found this slide to learn that there are actually more Division III athletes than Division I athletes, and not by just a little, but by a somewhat sizable margin. I was pleasantly surprised to see that there are more colleges at the Division III level than there are at Division I or II. So when you're trying to cast your net about where should I play, where are my talents going to be appreciated, I think it's important to know that there is a balance in that academic and athletic realm that is important for you to consider. The next part of that slide, I think, is really telling. 58% of Division I athletics receive some element of an athletic scholarship, but 80% of D3 athletes receive a combination of need-based aid and merit-based scholarship. And I would venture a bet that there are times in which the amount of scholarship and financial aid a Division III athlete receives covers a greater portion of the total cost. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. One of the things that is strong for students that participate in athletics is that their graduation success rate is incredibly strong. For many colleges, graduation at 50% or less in 4 years is a common number. And you see across all three NCAA divisions that athletes graduate at a much higher success rate than that. I personally believe it's the balance that you have to achieve in the classroom as well as on the field, the court, or wherever your space may be that enables students to find that success and graduate within 4 years. The final thing that I will highlight is that it's kind of near the bottom, but the percentage of the student body that participates in varsity athletics grows incrementally between Division I and Division III. And at many schools, there are sometimes 25 to 30% of the students who participate in athletics at that school. And so if that is a culture that you have enjoyed, and I know at Bishop Lynch, there is a strong athletic culture. It is something that lots of students do. That might be important to you as you continue on that journey, whether you're going to play sports or whether you just want to support athletics. Next slide, please. So I think the biggest question across the board is, what is the admission process like, and what should you be aware of? At any institution, Division I through Division III, you're not automatically admitted. There is a process and a journey for which you must travel, and they will vary between the three divisions. And so you want to make sure you're in great communication with your coach, but also in great communication with the admission office so that you know the appropriate steps that you need to take in order to successfully transfer from being a high school college athlete to be a college athlete. No matter what, you must apply and be admitted to that school. You're going to need to submit transcripts. You're going to need to write an essay. And even if you are a D1 signed athlete with a full ride scholarship, there is still an admission process you will need to travel on. So be aware of important dates and deadlines, and again, communicate regularly with both coaches and the admission office to make sure you are accomplishing all of these goals. You want to apply in a timely fashion. And while this will vary between the three NCAA divisions, you want to do this early and you want to make sure your application is complete in a timely fashion. Do you need to submit test scores? Is a transcript required? Is an essay required? All of these elements can play a role in getting your application read, decisioned, and information back to you and to the coach and to your family. And so be aware of different deadlines. You should also be aware and communicate with your college counseling team about the different application methods that you may be considering. I know at Southwestern, our volleyball coach is almost completely done with his recruiting for the class of 25. And many of his students will apply early decisions so that they can be done with their college search process in an early fashion. For other students, they may need to still compare financial aid awards as well as athletic offers before they can make a final decision. That binding admission requirement of early decision may not be the right match for them because it is a binding commitment. And so I highly encourage you to work with your recruiting coordinator, the athletic director, and/or your college counselors to make sure everyone is aligned with what application method is right for you, when it is most appropriate for you to apply. I'm really going to highlight that you should apply early no matter what method you should use, and that you should follow up with the admission office and your coaches to make sure your file is complete and able to be processed in a timely fashion. In Division I athletics, the coach is going to drive the train, but the admission office is still a part of it. In Division II and III, there's a greater partnership between the two, and it is going to be important that you communicate with coaches about your interest. Just because you listed on your application doesn't mean that the admission office is going to tell that coach that you're interested in playing at the collegiate level. And there are some tips that are provided further on in the presentation that I think are really important to highlight who you are, to show that you're interested and that you've done research about that institution. And then finally, for many of our families, the financials are really important. And so you want to make sure that you file the FAFSA and/or the CSS profile as required by these institutions in a timely fashion. Now, for those of you who are parents of members of the class of 25, we have all recently learned that the federal government is going to delay the release of the FAFSA again until the month of December. So you've got a little bit of time to gather all of your tax information to make sure that you have all the data that you need, but you're on pause to do this part of your homework, families, until December. The CSS profile is still set to open in October, and for many institutions, they will use the profile data to give an estimated financial aid package in a much earlier fashion. So again, communicate with your coaches, communicate with your admission counselors. What do I need to complete in order to have a full financial aid package? Next slide, please. I think this is the biggest dream of student athletes and sometimes their families in trying to manage the college process, is that we have great aspirations of getting a full ride to go to college. But in reality, the NCAA shares that only 2% of high school athletes are awarded athletic scholarships at all, and very, very few full rides are given. And so I think if you're going to pursue athletics as part of the college admission process and college admission funding model, make sure you set realistic expectations. Understand what sort of scholarships and financial aid your scholar athlete may be eligible for on top of or in supplement to any athletic awards that they may receive. In Division I and Division II, scholarships based on athletic talent can be given, but at the Division III level, it's not based on talent. Scholarships are based on academics, leadership, writing skills, and a broader palette. Extracurricularly, we will recognize your athlete's work, but we cannot award scholarships based on athletic talent. And so at the Division III level, as that chart highlighted, and as I've shared before, you're more likely to earn a combination of merit scholarship and or need-based financial aid to help foot the college bill. And so kind of in closing for my portion, and I know we're going to have some Q&A at the end, I thought I would share a few tips from the college admission side in working with student athletes and really what makes the student athletic process smooth for families, for coaches, and for the admission office. You should really reflect on why you want to play sports in college, because the work that goes into being a college athlete does not necessarily change from the divisions. D3 athletes are equally committed to practicing, to playing a rigorous travel schedule, and to missing class. And so you need to be committed to the idea of playing on a team and balancing that with your athletics. You should treat both the admission and the athletic recruiting process seriously. Communicate with coaches, communicate with your admission officers. And students, you especially should drive that communication process because you are the student athlete that will be part of that team and living this experience. Parents, we are always here for you. But many of my coaches in preparation for this meeting shared with me that your student should drive the train. You have an important seat alongside of them, but they are not recruiting you. They are recruiting your student to be part of their community, and that is really important. I always encourage my athletes to make sure they have researched their institutions beyond the athletic experience. I have seen students get hurt. I've seen students get burned out. I've seen coaches change and it's not a right match after a coach changes. And you don't necessarily want to have to leave the institution you choose just because the athletic journey isn't perfect. So I encourage my students and families to research the institution first. Do I see myself excelling here as a scholar? Can I find happiness as a student? Will there be ways for me to grow as a human being throughout the 4 years? And then if the athletic component fits on top of it, that is the cherry on top of a beautiful ice cream sundae. But if the only reason why you pick the college is because of the sport, and then the sport experience doesn't move as positively as we'd like, it most likely means you're going to transfer. There's nothing wrong with transferring. And as a matter of fact, you may find your right fit academic and athletic home in that transfer process. But we hope that you find that right fit home the first time around and don't have to go on that journey. It is okay to decide that you don't want to play sports, even though you may have chosen and played on your first year. And then after that first year, you may decide, you know what? I have gotten this research opportunity in the sciences. And while I love playing softball, I'm ready to be a serious scholar. And I am going to let my softball experience go so that I can prepare for graduate or professional school, do some research with a professor, study abroad, participate in an internship. Now, many students can do all of those things and still be an athlete, but it's important to know it is okay if you decide in this journey, I'm not sure that this is really what I want to do anymore. And finally, your academic process and your academic success will always drive your future. At all 3 levels, students get to go and play professional sports. But even then, that is not their entire life and their entire career. So make sure as you're traveling this journey that you find that sweet spot that is going to bring you joy inside of the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. I hope this information has been helpful, and I look forward to partnering a little bit later on in our time for any questions that you might have.
Great. Thanks so much, Christine. We really appreciate your time and your expertise on this subject. Next, I do want to introduce Coach Sublet. Many of you, if anyone's a football player, you see him every day, but he is our recruiting coordinator for the Bishop Lynch football team. also the defensive coordinator, and someone that has great knowledge as far as the athletic side of things. So, Coach Sub, take it away.
Hello? Hello, Tony, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hey, this is Coach Sublet. Glad to be on here this afternoon. I'll do it this evening with you guys. I was listening to the first presenter talk. Uh, she had a lot of good info. There are no guarantees in athletics, so you need to cover your bases and do your homework first. And have an idea of where you want to go as a student athlete or just as an individual. Uh, you can go to camps and stuff at different colleges that you have interest in, uh, but you need to like the place. I did hear her mention injuries. Injuries are a part of the game. Um, you're not going to play forever, so you need to like the area. I tend to tell the football guys, if you got hurt the, the first month or two there, and they said you couldn't play again. Could you live in that town or could you live in that city? Some kids like to be in a rural area. Some kids need to be in the city. It varies from kid to kid. Um, the recruiting process for sports, for footballs particularly, um, is really advanced, and it's almost 2 years ahead. We're on 25s now. Division twos actually just started recruiting right now. The bigger Power Five schools are almost done per se. So if you wanted to go to Texas Tech or a Big 12 school, SEC, that chance is not going to happen if you haven't already heard from them. Um, so that's why you need to start early. Like she's saying, she gave a lot of good tips. The biggest difference between the NCAA and NAI is uh, the NCAA has like a sliding scale for Division One athletes. Um, so the higher your GPA, the lower the test score can be in order for you to be eligible. Um, there are exceptions to every rule, but the better your grades, the more opportunity you're going to have for sure. And at the NCAA level, you can get full athletic scholarships. She did put a slide up that said only 2%. Oh man, it's like pulling teeth. Like literally, it's not even September yet, and I've talked to SMU, Liberty, different schools. They're already asking for 28s, 27s, and they're about to start offering 26s right now. So the NCAA part goes extremely fast. It's about a year and a half ahead. If you didn't play varsity as a sophomore, especially in football, it's going to be really tough. But if you play club and do some other stuff, you will have opportunity. NAI is a little bit different, a sliding scale. So for Division One, if you had a 3.5, your test score could be 1,000 per se, and if you had a 2.5, you would need a 12 or 1,300. That's for Division One, for Division One level. The NAI is a 2 out of 3. So you could be in the top half of your class, have a 2.0 or 820. So if a kid has above a 2.0 and you're in the first two quartiles of your class, you could get in versus getting a 1200 on your test. Uh, there is leeway there, but it's the best 2 out of 3. For Division two colleges, which would be Southeastern Oklahoma, East Central, Sewell Ross, schools of that level, Division twos don't have a sliding scale. You have to have a 2.2. You have to have a 820 or above to be eligible as a freshman. Now, that you need that to be eligible for athletics. Now, the trick to this is you need to do the best you can in school because even if you're on a full scholarship per se, or you don't get one, your money for school is based upon your test scores. So let's say a Division two school costs 20 something thousand and the school offer you 8,000. That's a pretty good deal for a high school kid. Well, you're gonna probably be eligible, but if you get above a 20 on the ACT or have above a 3.5, they have merit scholarships like she was mentioning that could take your room and board or housing. Um, so the more you could do, the better. Um, so like it's more ways to package it, just so you'll have options. Um, it is extremely hard to get a athletic scholarship. Um, I work extremely hard for, I know for our football babies, um, to just try to push them and get them in front of as many people as I can. I do believe honestly that beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So I do a good job of sending kids to all levels. NAI, Division two. I don't just say, oh yeah, he's a Big 12. Oh yeah, he a big time guy. He's gonna go to Texas. But what if he doesn't? And then we was putting our eggs in one basket and he don't have anywhere to fall. Division three level is solely based on academics. They don't even give athletic aid at all. So the GPA and your test score is extremely important. If you barely have a 3.0 or right at a 3.0, uh, your money is going to depend on your test score. So you're going to need to be at least above 18 or 19, uh, just to even have a shot for Division three. But they have a different recruiting process as far as athletics. Uh, Division three, if you meet the criteria for their academic standards, they can offer you a scholarship. So right now, it's a lot of kids getting Division three out scholarship offers because they're not tied to the football part. So you can get it based on your academics. Like I said, Division two is just now starting their recruiting process right now. Um, and Division one for the big schools is probably already happened. FCS non-scholarship, which will be Stetson, Drake, University of San Diego, schools of that nature. You could definitely still get in at one of those schools. That's Division one. But again, it's not going to be 100% football. It'll be a package. So academics is going to play a part for sure. So they're going to take the smarter of the two kids. If two athletes are even if it's a little bit the the guy with not the good grades, if he's better, they're going to take a kid that's higher academics. Uh, so you want to do your best. You want to study, just to give yourself a chance. You never know where you're going to land. Um, it is a lot of information for sure. If anybody have any questions, specifically for like your athlete or your kid, you guys can email me. I'm Broderick Sublet at bishoplynch.org for any specific questions because I know it's different parents on here. I know everybody is in football. I know we have probably have some track kids and stuff on here, volleyball or something. If anybody need any help to get noticed, what you would need to do is make a list of schools that you feel that you could play at and go get in front of those coaches. And everybody loves Texas kids for sure. And Texas is the biggest state. We do a good job with our athletics down here. Um, so everybody wants Texas kids. The best way to get in front of the coaches is to go to a showcase or for sure go to a camp on campus. And most of that stuff will be posted in January for the summer. People don't really do a lot of camps during the school year. Most of it's in the summer. But all that information is online. But going to camps is most definitely going to be your best way to get in front of them. And I even do this with the football boys. I ask them, uh, give me like your top 8 or top 7 schools that it like if all things align, then you could go. Give me that list, and I try to make sure I contact those schools directly. Uh, I do encourage at the smaller levels for sure. You gotta have a questionnaire in. I know it's real huge for NAIA and Division three. Most of the coaches won't even offer you if you haven't filled out a questionnaire. That's how they deter kids that's really not serious about recruiting. Some of the kids get it and think it's cliche. Oh, it's just a questionnaire. You seriously, if you can't take 3 minutes to fill out your name and address, That shows the coach how interested you are, no matter how good of a player you are. So questionnaires is definitely a big help. And you can fill out as many of those as you like just to get on those people's radar. Now, some of it will be flyer mail, like it might not be specific for you, but again, you'll have the dates and stuff you need, and stuff will come directly to your house, just so you'll know when the dates and stuff are, so you can make informed decisions as far as travel. Um, yeah, questionnaires. Yeah. What's the next slide? What's the next slide, Tony? How to get in con? Oh, how to interact with coaches. Um, this is interesting. Uh, how to interact with the coaches. The kids are going to be nervous, of course, but you need to be yourself. They're trying to get to know the athletes. Um, they they don't know you, so they're probably going to ask questions about your school day. Um, just regular routine questions. And I know I tell the football boys, if you don't know an answer, screenshot it to me and I'll tell you how to respond to it. They want you to be honest as you can. Don't do one word answers, like elaborate, detail. What did you do today? Or how was class? You just can't say okay. The coach probably is not going to respond because you didn't say anything else back. Like it's just like an open ended question. But be authentic, be yourself. If you don't like something, or they ask you a question, they're going to ask you about yourself, which is kind of tedious. The kids don't like that part. But you could ask the guys now in football that has a handful of offers. Some of the kids respond to one or two messages and then they stop. And then others respond to every message. And then some kids get 12 offers, some only have three. But everybody's getting contacted. So you have to respond to them. It does seem redundant, but they really want to get to know the young man or the young lady. Uh, so be open, be honest, and put your best foot forward. What's the next one, Tony? Year by timeline. Freshman. Um, it's good to make goals at the beginning of the season. Um, as early as freshman year. Freshman year is not too early to start putting in questionnaires, as well as sophomores. Uh, for the higher levels, it's going to depend on playing time, as far as specifically with football. But it's never too early to start filling out questionnaires, going to take college tours, to see what area you like, see what campus you might like. Could you see yourself there? Uh, and filling out the questionnaires and getting on their database and getting in their system to get flyers and get info on the school, the more the better. Um, the first presenter did tell the kids to make a list of schools and really vet the school and see if they have your major, if you like it. Injuries and stuff is a part of the game. Um, you can't play forever. But see if the schools even have your major. Some schools are eliminated because of major. I got a couple of football guys now that wants to do engineering, so it's they have a small pool versus if a kid wanted to do business, then it would be a much broader horizon. Um, but as a freshman and sophomore year, fill out questionnaires, put your best foot forward, but set like season goals, and just have an idea of programs that you like or that you see that pique your interest. Most kids, as they're younger, they start with the logos. Everybody wants to go to this school and that school, um, but as you get older, you realize that everybody can't play there, and that's fine too. Um, Athletics is a good vessel and avenue for guys to even get to college. Some kids can't even go to college if it wasn't for athletics. Uh, you get to interact with a bunch of different people from different backgrounds. Um, we got a unique football team, man. These guys from everywhere, and they love on each other. And if they didn't play football, they wouldn't have ever talked. That's what athletics does. And I know it's the same in basketball and volleyball, to get your kids around, exposed to different stuff, because you got to learn how to move in different circles. Um, but the earlier the better with recruiting for sure. Biggest tips, biggest tip for me is like I said, make a list, go to camps and get on campus. Getting to a college campus for Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3 is huge. Kids actually get scholarships for Division 3 and Division 2 because they went to camp and got on campus. Right now, it's going to be hotbed. I know with football for camp invites, and some kids get them and just ignore them. When seriously, if they would have just went to the NAI school or went to the game and showed good faith and just going to look at the university and show interest, they probably going to offer on the visit or they'll offer within a week or two after you get back. Kids get X'd off the list because they don't ever come to campus. Uh, and looking at stuff online, you really can't tell or get a good feel. Uh, Online, everything kind of looks cool, but getting there and seeing it live in person doesn't do it justice. Um, Georgetown is a nice place. Um, Southwestern is a very nice school. You might not know where Georgetown is and even think much about it, but if you go see it, it looks much better online. I mean, in person than it does online. Same thing with East Texas Baptist, or going to look at just to see how big it is. Uh, every kid bandwidth is different. Some kids believe that they really want to go to Division 1, but it's pretty intimidating to get there and go to a science class with 800 kids as versus being at a Division 2 school and you only got about 7,000 that's there. So then your class size is going to be smaller to where to be less than 50 kids per se. And then the Division 3 is even more personalized. So every kid is different. But I would say pick a handful from each level and just fill out questionnaires and get on their database, and the school will send you info. Um, and that's about it.
Great, Coach. Thanks, Coach Sub. We now want to open it up in case anybody has any questions or answers. I know we did have one question regarding insight to how rules are changing with roster sizes and scholarship allowances. I don't know if either one of you have any insight on that.
Um, the scholarship allowances for the Division 1 level, all sports, starting in January of 25, is going to be a lot of the extra 15 scholarships. So they went from 85 scholarships at Division 1, and that's going to be about 110. And it was a huge need for it. The high school kids took the brunt of this stuff through COVID because let's say in a recruiting cycle, a Division 1 school typically offers 25 kids. Um, well, with the portal being open, they was taking 22 college guys from another conference and then only taking 3 high schools. So getting the extra 15 scholarships is going to be huge to where even if you get 20 portal guys, you could at least have 10, 8 to 10 solid high school prospects. Um, because they just needed it. Like that's their way of fixing it. They gave the through COVID, they gave all the boys an extra year, and they passed the deal in June for even for the college kids. It's unlimited transfers as long as you pass your classes for that semester. So there is going to be a lot of movement. Um, but they did open the allotment. So in January, they will have extra scholarships available for high school kids.
Great, thanks, Coach. Does anyone else have any questions? If you do, feel free to add them into the chat. One thing I will say is that I had worked at a couple Division 1 institutions that one of them really big at football at the time. Just because you're good enough athletically doesn't mean necessarily that school will be able to admit you. So it is really important, especially for our younger students here, to make sure that you are keeping up on the grades. It certainly does help, even if you meet the NCAA's requirement for academics. So Any other questions from our listeners? If not, we'll let everyone get going with their evening. But I wanted to see if anyone else has anything.
Hey, Tony, I want to leave one last bit of advice if I can.
Go for it.
When I interviewed our coaches in preparation for today, the one thing that they shared that frustrated them the most was when kids just absolutely ghosted them. It takes work on both sides of this equation to be successful, but coaches also realize that you may make a different choice in your journey. It is completely okay to say, Coach Sub, I really enjoyed getting to know you through this process, but I've decided to go to a different institution. I wish you the best in your recruiting year. That allows that coach to close the door, to place their energy and help in other directions and focus on other students, and allows you to move on to those schools that you are interested in. So I think it's okay to break up. Just be sure to do it. It is a respectful thing to be able to close that door and you and the coach can move on.
Great advice. Same thing goes for general admission. If you decide not to go somewhere and say you don't want to go to Southwestern and Christine's emailing you, please let her know. It takes work on the admissions counselor's end as well. I did have a question from somebody in the chat, and I think Mandy and I can take this one. The question is there any recruiting help at BL for non-traditional athletes? So really with the recruiting process, this is on the student. This is on the student to use their coaches for whatever realm it might be. Mandy and I don't really have a good idea of what the landscape of collegiate archery looks like. We're happy to help you with your essays. We're happy to help you craft those emails that you send out to the different coaches at the different schools. But at the end of the day, the onus does fall on the student especially when it comes to some of those non-traditional sports. I will say if you do play a more traditional sport, your coaches are a really, really great resource. And I know that they will fight for you at BL. If you have any club coaches, I know a lot of them will do the same thing. So make sure you do lean on your coaches for their expertise. Same thing with admissions. Lean on Miss M and I for some of that expertise in those relationships. I know there were a few instances that Christine and I were able to collaborate and help get a few BL students some offers at Southwestern. So make sure you're utilizing those resources. But unfortunately, Miss M and I aren't going to be too much help if you're looking at something like fencing or those non-traditional sports. Great question, though. Do we have any last questions? Miss M, is there anything you want to add to the chat?
No, just thank you all so much for joining. And for our presenters, thank you so much for all the information. I know that athletics recruiting can be just such like the wild, wild west sometimes. So your perspectives have been so great, and this has been so helpful, I'm sure, for all of our attendees. So thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your evening to share with our students.
Thank you all. And with that being said, we are going to wrap it up. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Miss M and I work in the college corner in guidance, and we can certainly get you in contact with both of the presenters as well if you do have any questions. But to Coach Sub, to Christine, we thank you so much for your attendance today, and have a great evening.